Space Marine 2 is showing that if you don't go woke, you win. That's literally all gamers want at this point. They want some fun gameplay, and if they don't see any crazy woke crap in it, if you don't have Space Marines gay humping each other, because that's what they want at this point, I guess, if they don't have a trans Space Marine or a female Space Marine, you're good to go, because it respects the lore, it does everything that players ask for, and that's about it. Now, this is a game that just came out, and it looks like it's a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of talk about it so far. We'll get into why Space Marine's such a success and how it's going, and we will talk about all of this right here and more as we are covering everything that's going on with Warhammer 40K, and of course, the Space Marine 2 game, I believe might be the best hope for Warhammer 40K. I think gamers are sending a message, honestly, but we'll get into that in just a moment. My name is John Delarose, everybody. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I am a science fiction author, reader, and connoisseur, and I have a great series for you if you like Warhammer 40K, at least the old Black Library stuff. This is Justified Saga of the Nano Templar. It's a 3-book trilogy, which you can get all 3 on Amazon right now, and I would love for you to grab this and check it out today. It is Crusaders in space. It's a high action and adventure. It's exactly the type of stuff I think you'll love. So that's in the description below. Thank you guys. You've been selling this so much. I'm gonna have to probably make a sequel to this trilogy pretty short order. It's been wild, the sales the last couple of months, and that's all because Warhammer 40K fans are such great readers, which is a wonderful audience, of course. But for some reason, the current Warhammer 40K Games Workshop wants to get rid of you. They want to replace you with a modern audience. Of course, they came out with their animated shorts, The Tithes, and they showed that they were going to double down on the female Space Marine setup. The problem is, people hated this. It violated the lore. Warhammer 40K, and of course Games Workshop, said it had always been that way. They gaslit you about it. They thought that you, as gamers, would just be so stupid you wouldn't care. They kind of view you as pay pigs over there, and that's kind of why a lot of people have gotten sick of Games Workshop these last few months. People are starting to boycott the company because it's just been too much. It's been too much disrespect of the lore. And, as people who have been studying the lore for a very long time and enjoying Dan Abnett's books and especially the Horus Heresy stuff, we all know that's the best. And when they produce their new stuff, it's all like weird pronoun crap that they're trying to force upon you. And this is happening in Warhammer Fantasy at a much faster rate. It's like fantasy they don't care about as much, and so they just put it as all their woke testing grounds, and then they try to sprinkle it into 40K slowly. They think if they can boil you slowly, maybe you just won't go away, and I don't think it's working very well. Now, I was very, very scared about Space Marine 2, that it was going to have a woke activist involved. They did have a transgender writer on it, but that person did get fired from the company a couple of years ago, so maybe they were trying to push too hard in the woke agenda, and then they just backed off of it with the new team. I know that they did take an extra year to put this together, and it kind of shows. I think the game's a lot of fun. Now, I don't think the game's like spectacularly special or anything like that, but it is a good successor for Space Marine 1. It's really a big deal in the co-op or PvP play. That's where, if you like that type of thing, that's where you're really going to shine with it. The single-player mode is very, very short, and if you are just into single-player mode, I mean, unless you're like a hardcore Warhammer fan, I don't know that I'd get this game for this. It's just not enough content to be worth the cost. That's kind of how it is, unfortunately. But what they did do in that single-player content was very, very good. The storyline is excellent. It respects the lore on every regard, and it respects Space Marine 1 and plays off of it. It actually creates a setup for another campaign or a Space Marine 3. Perhaps they'll drop some downloadable content to make this a little longer into a second storyline with it. Who knows? But it does add in that level, like they're going to be continuing with this series. Now, the main character is great. It is not a female Space Marine. Now, there is the party of the Space Marines here are like that generic Hollywood sort of like we got one black guy, we got one Asian guy kind of look to it that makes it look like every other Hollywood movie. But, I mean, I see a big difference between that and then trying to like force the trans agenda or things like that. It doesn't bother me that much personally, but it is there. It is something that they obviously intentionally did with the designs in order to make more people, quote, feel seen, which is obnoxious. I don't understand why the diversity looks and what goes on with, quote, diversity always ends up looking the same. Have you noticed that? It's like instead of diversity, they just want a monolith everywhere. But that's a minor point. Like I said, it did pretty well. The main problem with it, again, is just that it's too short. They did actually do a pretty good job of showing how broad the scope of the conflict is in the Warhammer 40K universe, which when you're just following one unit of Marines, that's kind of hard to do. So I got to give them props for that. The Tyranids are excellent. They feel right. It is crazy, and it's like a Zerg rush. Fantastic stuff, and very enjoyable all the way around. All right, so this is selling very, very well. Paul Tassi from Forbes is reporting on this. He says, I remember there was a narrative that 2024 was going to be vacant of good games. We had, as we head into fall here, I don't think that's true. Another big hit, that would be Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, tearing things up on Steam and consoles. Early access for Warhammer involved buying a more expensive copy last week. Already had the game over 100,000 peak players on Steam. That's early access. It's amazing. Now it's been 1 day of release, and it has more than doubled with 225,000 peak players on the middle of Monday at launch. The game is also #1 top seller on Steam right now, beating out all comers, which is even excludes earning more than the Steam Deck itself and CS2 microtransactions. That's crazy. It's now the second best-selling game on PS5 behind only NBA 2K25, which is pretty crazy, and it's ahead of Fortnite, Astrobot, Call of Duty, and Black Myth Wukong. Amazing. Space Marine 2 has a very solid 83 Metacritic for reviewers. It's 80% positive reviews on Steam. Just from my look at it, guys, I'd say it's between a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's good, not great. Like I said, too short, really is. But I'm not sure how many other ways to say that this game is a big hit. This is coming from Saber Interactive, who created something unique in Space Marine 2, the solid single-player experience with PvE and PvP endgame that's hooked many players as they upgrade and refine their own Marines. So this is pretty interesting. And Paul Tassi's saying it's excellent. It's pretty good. He says it plays like Gears of War. And yes, it's I'd say it's a little closer than Paul Tassi talks about. I'd say it's almost a Gears of War clone, very much so. But that's okay. Gears of War is a good game. There's nothing wrong with that. And you slap a Warhammer skin on it. I think a lot of people are just very happy. You don't need to reinvent the wheel when the wheel works. That's kind of the way that I look at things. So as of now, people are saying that this has sold 2 million plus copies. That's excellent. Now, Black Myth Wukong is, of course, running circles around that worldwide. Black Myth Wukong is at 18 million copies, and after 5 days, they were posting that they had 10 million sales. Maybe word of mouth will happen here. Maybe people will see that this goes and it is a great game, and it'll expand even further. I know that there's a lot of shops in different areas of the country that are saying that they're sold out of physical copies of this already, which is a really good sign. I mean, if the physical media, that's what costs to actually produce, is gone, they're all raking in the cash, and it's all gravy at this point. This is something really, really good. And again, this is just a testament. Black Myth Wukong was a lesson. They didn't have woke in it. They just had a story that was pretty fun. They had gameplay that was pretty fun. They didn't do anything magical or reinvent the wheel with that game. It's just an action RPG. Nobody went out there and said, hey, this is the most innovative gameplay of all time or anything like that. They produce fun. And that's what these are. Video games are entertainment. They're supposed to be about escapism, especially when you get into these sci-fi settings or fantasy settings. That's really what we want. We don't want to sit there and talk about our genders in these sorts of settings. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So Games Workshop had better wake up real fast. The Tides is causing a lot of problems. I've seen a lot of people canceling their subscriptions over that, saying that they're going to be boycotting Warhammer 40K. The female Space Marines is a bastardization of the lore, and instead of just trying to write it into the newer lore, they just completely lied about it. Treating the gamers like that is absolutely crazy, and I don't see why a company would act like that. But there's too many people infested in there, rather. It's like it's rotting from the inside out at Games Workshop. This is a licensed property, and Focus Entertainment seems to be focusing on what their namesake says, focusing on entertainment. And that's exactly the lesson that should be learned here. Now, I don't think Games Workshop's going to learn this lesson. Like I said, I view this as probably the last hurrah for fun Warhammer 40K content. I don't see anything turning around anytime soon because Games Workshop doesn't seem apologetic for what they're doing. They seem to keep wanting to do what they're doing and keep wanting to push even harder, and then, of course, try to cater to that small segment of Warhammer 40K fandom with all the weird Clout Goblins out there who are trying to push for this stuff rather than its main player base. It's a lesson, but will they learn it in time? All right, leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Congratulations to Focus Entertainment on hitting 2 million sales. That's amazing, and beyond. We'll keep covering this as it comes out, and we'll be back soon. please do check out my book, Justified Saga of the Nano Templar, on Amazon. As I said, I got a great trilogy for you, and I appreciate you guys for reading. We'll see you soon.